You suffered 3 strokes due to an aneurysm near your shoulder.
Said he cracked it, but it took me 4 months to learn to walk and balance again. Here I was 6'3", 225, 10% body fat. I was ripped up, and I'm going, I suffered strokes. That's for like 90-year-old guys, isn't it?
Right.
Nearly dying saved my life. And I'll tell you, it put me on a different path and different road in what was important in life. Joe Pesci's been a friend since the late 80s.
Love Joe.
And Joe said, you were going to work your butt off like you've never worked.
You've spent decades in Hollywood, an industry where this kind of abuse was often whispered about, but rarely confronted.
It's sad that in Hollywood, the casting couch is still alive and well, trust me.
Has your faith ever been shaken by how you've been treated, or has it only strengthened through adversity?
It's so easy to blame God for things don't go right in your life. Well, I had a lot of failure just in Hollywood itself. There was failure every single day. There was rejection every single day.
Did you ever just want to give up?
No. Never wanted to give up. When people say no or reject you, there's always something good about that.
Yeah.
And I use it, that fueled the fire for me. Boom, 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 tap my shoulder, turn around, stop my hand. Takes my hand, he says, Kevin, pleasure to meet. We love watching Hercules as a family. Why? You don't know who's watching your show.
Yeah.
I was like blown away. My manager and agent of many, many years called me into their office back in like 2014, said, we can't work with you anymore. I was like, why? It's all the things you post on the internet. And they said, yeah, they don't like the fact that you're conservative. They don't like the fact you're a Christian. So I had to reinvent myself.
What would you say to young actors or creatives just starting off in Hollywood who feel they need to hide their values and their faith in order to succeed in entertainment?
Don't let anyone set your limitations, especially yourself.
You are listening to Reinvented. I'm your host, Jen Eckhart. It has been a minute, y'all. Okay, it's actually been 6 months, but who's counting? And while I can't get into the specifics just yet, let's just say that the last chapter of my life has required a kind of reinvention I never saw coming. I have been deep in it, folks, healing, growing, and confronting some of the toughest challenges I've ever had to face. But I am back. I'm in action, and I am more committed than ever to bringing you stories of courage, comeback, and yes, reinvention. I'll be opening up in a forthcoming solo episode that will be one of the most personal ones I have shot to date. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, I could not think of a better guest to mark this return than someone who knows a thing or two about strength, standing firm in your values, and thriving in the face of resistance. You probably know today's guest as Hercules, the legendary demigod who could lift a mountain and still flash a Hollywood smile. But beyond the myth and the muscles, Kevin Sorbo has spent decades navigating an industry that hasn't always welcomed his convictions or candor. He's an actor, director, author, father, husband, and an unapologetic truth teller, whether it's on set or off script. Today, he joins us to talk reinvention, resilience, and what it really means to be strong in a world that often tests your strength. Kevin Sorbo, welcome to Reinvented, my friend.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Finally, we were able to make this work out. This is awesome. Thank you.
I'm not going to lie. It has been so difficult getting Kevin on this show. So I think it might actually be...
Not that I was avoiding you. I wasn't avoiding you.
It might be easier getting the president of the United States on this show. You're either filming a movie in New Zealand, shooting a commercial, playing golf somewhere exotic, or just expertly dodging my emails or texts. But before we dive in, be honest, were you actually busy, or were you just scared to come on a show called Reinvented, hosted by a woman who doesn't hold back?
No, because I don't hold back either, and I'm not a woman. I'm not confused about my sexuality. So,
Kevin, fair. Okay,
when I do speaking events, I always do a lot of keynotes. I always start by thanking. I go, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. And if I've just used the wrong pronouns, I don't care.
Okay.
So, but no, I've not been dodging. Okay. That's busy. I shoot about 4 movies a year in the independent movie world, and travel a lot. I've already shot 2 this year. I got 2 more coming up. One I'm just acting, and the other one I'm directing and acting. And then I've got 4 movies that are done in the can, coming out this year in theaters, and 3 documentaries coming out.
You're a triple threat, actor, producer, director.
I'm author as well.
And an author.
I've written 4 books.
And Hercules.
Yeah, well, that's the old days. But I had a blast. 7 years in New Zealand.
Well, it was
#1 show in the world, by the way, if those that don't. I know it's a sin of pride, but 176.
It's amazing. We're going to get into all of that, but it was a close call. For a minute there, I was going to have our mutual buddy, Chris Petticord, bring in a cardboard cutout of you, and that's who I was going to interview. So I'm glad we have you in person.
Filling the voice out, narration part.
Voiceover. You've done voiceover work, right?
I do. I do a lot of documentary stuff, a lot of narration on that, but I have done voiceover work, yeah.
So now that I finally have lured you in, you're not going anywhere. You're actually,
Right here.
you're trapped. You're trapped in this studio for an hour. I promise. You will be gentle, but I am asking every question I have saved since 1995. So I know, let's kick it back to the 90s. I am curious. You just mentioned Hercules. You know, what was life like for you when Hercules, the legendary Journey's #1 rated show in the world in its time, became a global hit? Like, how did that level of fame change you as a person?
Well, you know, it's interesting because originally my agent called about the show. It was just going to be 5 2-hour movies for Universal Studios. And I thought, you know, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3", I'm 225. I'm in shape. I work out all the time. But I said, they're going to want some steroid dude, you know, no cut to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
True. You guys kind of do mimic each other.
Well, yeah,
I
I didn't do the steroids he was doing. I just worked out.
Yeah.
So,
You did the old-fashioned way.
But I thought they would want some big, you know, 280-pound guy. And they said, no, they want a guy that looks like he's athletic, looks like a guy that could be a NFL quarterback or a decathlon guy. So they put me through 7 audition processes. They interviewed 2,800 actors in all of North America.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got down the last 3. I got the role. The coolest thing for me was shot down in New Zealand. I knew by the 3rd movie, I would say the coolest thing is I got a whole year with Anthony Quinn playing Zeus. So here's this guy, you know, from the golden age of Hollywood, 6 times nominated for Oscars, 1 twice. You know, Lawrence of Arabia, Zorba the Greek, Guns of Navarre, and all these amazing movies. And he played my dad. You know, by the 3rd movie, though, I told him, I said, you know something, Mr. Quinn, I think they're going to make a series out of this. And he said, why do you think that? And I said, well, because there's nothing like it on TV. Sure enough, Universal called and said, you're staying down there. And
they loved you that much.
It was, well, there was nothing like that on TV.
Right. And, you know, well, that and Xena Warrior Princess.
Xena was our lesbian spinoff show. I like
Oh, my God.
We spun that off in season
I loved it. I watched you and I watched Xena.
Well, that was spun off in season 3. Okay. Hercules season 1.
Okay.
We introduced the character into season 2. The studio liked it and said, let's do a female Hercules type of thing. And so they spun it off. And then by season 5, we spun off young Hercules. A lot of people don't remember this show. It only lasted 2 years. Mm-hmm. But it was an actor who played me. And the only beef I had against him was that I said, he's kind of skinny. If he's playing Hercules as a teenager, Hercules would still be pretty ripped up. And he was a skinny little guy. The show got canceled. And I knew they were canceling it. The actor called me up. I lived in New Zealand. We shot everything in New Zealand. I bring him out to lunch. And I said, you know, you're a really good actor. You're going to do really well. Don't worry about it. You're only 21. It was Ryan Gosling.
Oh, wow.
That's how Ryan got his start.
And he's just a nothing. Nope.
Yeah.
What's happening to him?
I have no idea. I feel sorry. I feel sorry for him.
I feel sorry for him, too. By the way, Ryan, you're welcome on the show.
And shame on you for not putting me in one of your movies. You owe me a little bit.
Yeah. At least a coffee or a beer.
I'll tell you what, Sam Raimi, who came on the set every once in a while to see the crew's developing, because during the 90s, he was writing The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
He brought me to the 3rd Oscar nomination for the 3rd Lord of the Rings. And he said afterwards, it was your show that started the industry in New Zealand. And I said, that's a wonderful compliment, but you didn't give me one role in Lord of the Rings.
Right. I could have been Gandalf.
Come on, man.
You would have made an excellent Gandalf. I could totally
have done any role. No, I wanted the younger role. Gandalf was much older. That guy was 30 years older than me.
You sound like you have a little bit of a beef going with Xena Warrior Princess. What's up with that?
I don't know if it's a beef or anything, but you know.
Were you threatened?
No, they never beat us in the ratings. So I'm okay.
No competition, Xena.
No, but it was, you know, it made sense to have as big as Hercules was. Why not do the female version of it? And and quite big as well.
Yeah, you know, you were in absolutely peak physical condition during your Hercules years. Not that you're not in good shape.
No,
today.
I'm an old guy now. I still work out. I can't lift.
We're gonna have him do some bench pressing at the end of this episode. But, you were what we see today, like on the WWE and the AEW, like larger than life, heroic and built like a gladiator. You kind of still are. We hugged before this episode started recording. But beyond the workouts and the stunt work, what was the internal weight of carrying a character like that for 6 seasons? That's a lot of seasons in television.
7. It was 6.
7.
Well, it was 6 seasons of 1-hour episode, but the first season was a 2-hour movie.
Right.
So we did 5-hour movies, and those actually were 10 weeks each. So it's a whole year down there with that. But
how did embodying a mythic hero like that affect your own sense of identity? Like on and off camera, did you?
It didn't really hit me until season 3 when I started noticing in season. We lived in New Zealand, so we're pretty isolated from the world.
Yeah.
But when I was going,
there are worse places to shoot.
I loved it down there. No, I would. If they had to kick me out of America, that's probably where I would move to. But no, the people are great. The food is amazing. The scenery, the geography was as big a star as anything else in the show as well, even for Lord of the Rings. But to me,
that's right, because they shot Lord of the Rings in New Zealand.
It hit me season 2 when I went back, and then season 2 I went back for Christmas back in Minnesota where I grew up. And my mom and I walked into Target, and there was all these toys of Hercules, swords and action figures. It was very surreal for me. It was very weird.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't in LA enjoying the fame. I was getting invited to all these premieres now.
You were so busy working and memorizing lines. You were also
I worked
in a different country.
16 to 18 hours door to door every day. Yeah, it was a brutal schedule. I'm not complaining. I had a blast.
Wow.
Loved doing my own stunts because I was the athlete. I was a football, basketball guy,
You were like the Tom Cruise Hercules. Tom does his own stunts.
A foot taller.
Yeah, just a foot.
I'm impressed with Tom Cruise. I got to tell you, the stuff he does is insane.
He is amazing. We're actually going to get to Tom. Tom plays a role in this conversation, but we will get there.
All right.
But you have openly shared, you've been very vulnerable about suffering multiple strokes at the height of your career. In fact, in 1997, at the height of your fame playing Hercules, you suffered 3 strokes due to an aneurysm near your shoulder.
Yeah.
The strokes were triggered after a chiropractor manipulated your neck. Sounds like a malpractice suit to me. I don't know about that.
It could have been very easily.
No. But, these events left you with permanent injuries that affected your ability to act and perform basic activities like even like walking, which is, crazy. How did that health crisis reshape your perspective, and what did it teach you about your identity outside of fame?
Well, I'll go back just a little bit because I was always doing my own stunts. I was getting cuts, bruises, sprains, whatever. But I was having all kinds of problems with my left arm. It was the end of season 5. I couldn't figure out what was going on with my left arm, my shoulder. The fingers were numb. Ended up being that there was an aneurysm. My doctor, when I got back to LA to do publicity on my first big budget movie, Kull the Conqueror, Kull was the father of Conan. So Schwarzenegger's older than me, but apparently I'm his dad. But anyway, they found a lump up here, and before they could do the biopsy, they were talking about, I went to see my chiropractor. Now in 8 years, he's never cracked my neck. The voice in my head said, don't let him crack your neck. And I thought, he's never cracked.
This is when they jerk your head.
He said he cracked it. Well, that opened up the aneurysm, and the doctors call it retrograde flow. Just for a second, blood flowed backwards. So that crack where the aneurysm was in my left subclavicle forced 3 clots into my brain.
Oh.
So
are you lucky? You're lucky to be alive.
Oh, there's no question. The head of neurology at Cedars-Sinai in L.A. and the USC Medical Center wrote a paper on me and talking about what I went through.
Wow.
I'd lost the vision, lost the speech, lost the balance. Luckily, speech came back pretty quickly. Vision, I still have a 10% loss in both eyes in the upper right quadrant if I do a field of vision test. But it took me 4 months to learn to walk and balance again. Here I was 6'3", 225, 10% body fat. I was ripped up, and I suffered strokes. That's for like 90-year-old guys, isn't it? Right. So
and you're like, I'm Hercules. Hercules doesn't have strokes.
I think my age in my 30s, and I think the strength that I had in the physical fitness helped me. If I was an 80-year-old guy, it'd probably be harder to have a recovery I did.
Of course.
So I fought through it, but it took me 3 years to fully recover from it. I still have balance issues that most people wouldn't be able to detect. I can.
Yeah.
I still have loss of vision, but I wrote a book called True Strength. My journey from Hercules, a mere mortal, how nearly dying saved my life. And I'll tell you, it put me on a different path and different road in what was important in life.
It's so true. You can have all the money, success, fame in the world, but if you don't have your health, You don't have anything.
I haven't.
It's so true. You know, on a much lighter note, and this one is for my best friend, if she's watching, Kaylee Concannon.
Kaylee better be watching.
She used to watch Hercules. When I say religiously, it was like every single morning before school. And you may or may not she may or may not have had the biggest crush on you. I'm fairly certain she's married now, but I'm pretty sure she still does have the biggest crush on you of all time. So I have to ask on her behalf.
Sure.
Did you have any idea you were a teenage heartthrob back then? And did that come with any unexpected like fan encounters that you remember to this day?
When the letters started coming in like 2,000 a week, yeah, I knew, because there was a lot of marriage proposals, a lot of very interesting photos taken.
Someone proposed to you via letter?
I could have started my own Pornhub, apparently. It was so...
You still can. To free
that's true. But it would the photos and the requests, and it was quite interesting. I had a lot of 15-year-old girls saying that, you know, you're my boyfriend. I can't get a boyfriend. I'm going, well, I'm 20 years older and I could be your dad. But it was flattering.
Wow.
When I got married, it was interesting to see some of the backlash from some of the women.
Oh yeah.
I go, did you think you're going to meet me somewhere?
Yeah.
But
you're off the market.
You know, people watch your show now that they're number one. But I mean, it was flattering and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I kind of get it, you know, with the long hair.
Girls had you up on their walls.
I know. Yeah.
That's got to feel good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. But people, for the most part, very nice, and they're very good fans.
You have had success in both television and film, and I'm curious, what would you say is the biggest difference in terms of professional pressure that you have had to face when toggling between film versus TV?
When I got Hercules, when it became a series, Joe Pesci's been a friend since the late 80s.
Love Joe.
And Joe said, you were going to work your butt off like you've never worked. And I said, well, I imagine some 1 hour series is tough, but what do you mean? What do you mean movies? He goes, no, movies you shoot a page or two a day. You're going to be shooting 8 to 10 pages a day. You're going to shoot them multiple times, different angles. You have all your fight scenes. And he was right. I don't say the movies are easier to shoot. There's a slower pace with them because you have more time to shoot them usually. But they're both. I do mostly movies now anyway. So I'm in the independent world in there, sorbostudios.com. Go there.
Shameless plug. We love the shameless plug.
Well, they got to keep up. Like I said,
we're going to do sound effects each time you have a like.
Well, I do about 4 movies a year still. And I'm still very busy.
Yeah.
But, they're both very busy in that world, but I direct a lot more. I started directing on Hercules, but I direct at least 1 movie a year. I got one I'm directing this October in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So.
I have such respect for that. I adore actors who take on the role of directing and producing. It just makes you multifaceted, and you're somebody who really knows the industry and knows how to shoot a good scene.
Well, yeah, you figure between Hercules, my second series, Andromeda, that went 5 years. I've got 12 straight years of television, and I would always ask. I remember reading some of Kevin Costner when he was younger. He said he would work on the sets on both sides of the camera to learn about everything. And so I started doing that to talk with the camera department, the lighting department, everybody for their jobs. I wanted to understand the job. So I loved it. I love the industry. I love being on the set all the time. That's where I'm happiest.
Now, are you a method actor? Meaning, like, for my viewers and listeners who don't know, it's when you take on the role and persona of the character. You never did that.
Actors like that.
Yeah. How's that? Is that interesting?
It's weird because they.
Come on, give us a story.
If their character name is Bill, you can only call them Bill. You can only, their character doesn't like you in the film, your adversaries, they don't even want to sit down and lunch with you.
It's like you have to get their pronouns
weird to me. Now, the Meisner technique, which is more like in the moment where you and I are just talking right now, reacting off each other, that's more real to me. To be so selfish in the method world, there's great method actors.
Oh, yeah.
There's some really great ones out there.
Lady Gaga, I'm fairly certain in her role for, I'm going to butcher the name of the movie. What is it? Just say it, Gus.
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. Oh, yeah.
Jim
Well, of
Carrey's
course,
very
Jim
method.
Carrey,
Very
great
method.
method actor.
Nick Nolte apparently was that way. Richard Dreyfuss. Richard Dreyfuss is great. I hope to work with him soon. I got a part from him in a movie. Oh my gosh! I come on, tip my tongue. And it's Dustin Hoffman.
Oh, okay.
Who I've met a number of times. Is such a great guy.
Yeah,
such a great guy.
He seems like that warm kind of guy who would be.
But there's a great story. I got to interrupt. There's a great story when we did the Marathon Man.
Okay.
With British actor, greatest actor. They call him the greatest actor of all time. Sir, help me out.
It's early. We're shooting this episode. We're still waking up.
I got in late last night.
We needed some espresso shots.
I know. But anyway, he did a Marathon Man. And his character is supposed to be awake for 3 days being chased. And so he didn't sleep for 72 hours.
Oh.
And
that's dedication.
I know. And the actor he's working with looked at me and goes, why don't you just try acting, old man? So, we all know what it's like to be tired. We all know what it's like to be happy. Right. I know the range of emotions that a human being has. So I can just do that like that.
Right.
So I don't need to say, not sleep for 72 hours to know what being tired is. So.
I'd be such a diva. I'd be like, I need a minimum of 8 hours. 8 hours minimum. And a mint under my pillow.
I'm a 5-hour guy. So
okay.
I don't like that. I want 8 hours.
Yeah, I get it. You're the busiest man in Hollywood. I couldn't even get you booked on the Reinvented podcast.
This is man kicked out of Hollywood.
We will get there, Kevin. We will get there. It's no secret that we are all about personal reinvention on this podcast, the name of the show, Reinvented. I'm sure my viewers and listeners and myself would be curious to know, what has been the hardest chapter to reinvent yourself from? And what did that reinvention require of you, both spiritually, emotionally and professionally?
Well, then it's going to come with what I just mentioned. I got my manager and agent of many, many years called me in their office back in 2014, said, we can't work with you anymore. And I was like, why? Well, the things you post on the internet. Oh, you mean the truth? The things I post about, even it's sarcastic maybe, but it's the truth. And they said, yeah, they don't like the fact that you're conservative. They don't like the fact you're a Christian. And I laughed. I said, that is incredibly immature and childish. But I knew that road was happening in Hollywood. I didn't notice it that much initially. When I never stopped being where I was, but on the set, you get in these little, make fun of each other, whatever, but it's become such a toxic, hateful, angry world out in Hollywood. And I think they've cost themselves a lot too in terms of what people follow in the movies that people won't support. So I had to reinvent myself. I formed Sorbo Studios with my wife, and we're doing our own thing. And thank God for other independent producers. They keep me busy as well. So I don't think it was difficult. It was just weird. I thought that they're like 7th grade mean girls, at these people in Hollywood, where they don't like. I remember Ben Affleck said, I'll never work with a conservative on any of my movies. And I go, really? Why?
Well, I just think that's short-sighted.
Well, it's stupid to me.
Yeah.
No sense.
Well, I'm a big believer of just putting, religion and politics aside, because this is a free country and we should be, you can't put yourself in a box like that.
Yeah, when I go on a set, I just want to work.
Of course.
I'm not there to sit there.
You're not there to...
You're not a Christian. Let me talk to you about God.
There are people like that.
Oh, sure there are.
Yeah.
I never run really across that many people in Hollywood that do that.
Yeah, that's refreshing. I'm glad you are that way. You have been extraordinarily outspoken about being blacklisted in Hollywood for being an outspoken Christian and conservative. We don't really get into the weeds politically on this show, but and by the way, we do that because mainstream media does enough of the politics for all of us. But when Hollywood sort of shifted away from you, you leaned into producing and storytelling on your own terms. And that's why I have a great deal of respect for you, Kevin. Politics, religion, all that aside, anyone who sort of throws out the rule book and becomes the captain of their own ship, like those are my people. And my experience, although much different than yours, was still considered, show business. I worked at Fox News for nearly a decade, but I departed the world of corporate media and I have not run back into the arms of it, at least not for the last few years. So, I can say with authority, I know what it's like to be ingrained in such a toxic culture for so long, only to then sort of have to regain your footing after being thrust back into society. But I've launched this incredible show as a result, and I never would have had that ability, had I stayed working at the highest levels of media. Have you ever had a moment in your life where you just felt lost?
I think maybe in the early years trying to pursue the career, because I knew it was going to be tough. I mean, I grew up in Minnesota, small town Minnesota, but Minneapolis, St. Paul is like the third biggest market for commercials. So I started doing commercials there. The headquarters, national headquarters, Target, Best Buy, 3M, Pillsbury, General Mills. So I was able to I did like 15 commercials during my college years. So I had that Screen Actors Guild card.
Yeah.
All important card that you have to have.
Everyone wants that.
Try to get an agent in LA. Right. So I had no problem getting a commercial agent. And, yeah, you struggle. I tell people all the time I'm a 13-year overnight success. So I was a double business major in college, and I said, as a buddy said to me, and I've used it forever. He goes, "Sorbs, remember when you move out there, it's called show business, not show." Okay. And I went out there and treated it like a business. I remember my agent one time. Other actors, everybody's an actor in LA. So my buddies that were sort of my competition, yet still my golf buddies.
Yeah.
We would all hey, there's a commercial audition for Coors Beer or something. Did their agent? We would help each other.
Right.
And I remember calling my agent and say, "Hey, I'm perfect for this commercial. Why can't I audition?"
Was this back in the 90s?
This was back in the late 80s before I got Hercules. No, I
wasn't even born yet.
Yeah. So it was from between 87 and 92, because I got Hercules in 93. So
I was 3 years old, by the way.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry. I
know.
But you're on my podcast, so that's got to mean something. But that's got to mean something. You're on my show, and the people want to hear from you, Kevin Sorbo.
Well, it's good. But no, I remember one time telling my agent, I said, "I'm perfect." And it goes, "Kevin, I got 100 other clients." I said, "Your clients don't give a crap about me." I said, "Let me have the chance." My mantra is, let me have the chance to be rejected, because it's all about rejection.
Yeah.
In your industry, in my industry, it really is.
Yeah.
They're not going to like you. You're too young, too old, too big, too small. There's always some reason they're looking not to book you for a role. So I just said, let me get in there. I would put up with the horrible traffic of LA to drive 60 miles. It's going to take you an hour and 45 minutes in LA traffic, but I would do it to go to the audition that they're probably going to reject me.
You just mentioned rejection. Has there ever been a rejection or door slammed on your face that turned out to be a real blessing in disguise? Can you share it with us?
Dean Cain and I got done the last two.
Superman.
Lois and Clark TV series, exactly. So we both did screen tests with Terry Hatcher, who was part of Lois. And that night, my manager called me up and she said, "You got the role. You're going to be Superman." So I was very excited. 24 hours later, they called back. They said they changed their mind. They're going Dean Cain.
Oh.
So talk about the ultimate high to the roller coaster ride just sucks at times. Well, within 3 weeks, I started getting the auditions for Hercules.
What?
And speaking of Dean and I are filming a movie this summer together.
Wow.
It's a comedy golf movie, which is right up my alley. Dean is directing it and starring it. I'm starring in it.
Oh, that sounds great.
We're shooting in Vegas, so it's going to be fun. 110 degrees in Vegas in July. We start filming in 3 weeks. And Dean, I bugged Dean. I go, "Well, your show, my show went 7 years, became the most watched TV show in the world, and your show after 3 seasons got canceled. So everything to me worked out quite well." So
no competition there. Sounds like you guys.
Dean is a very good friend.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Great guy. Yeah,
so
great guy.
I do want to shift gears for a minute. Hard left. So I am a sexual assault survivor and someone whose audience includes many survivors. And I have to say, and I have to ask you about this as, somebody who's been in Hollywood, in the culture, I'm always struck by the tension between silence and speaking out. You've spent decades in Hollywood, an industry where this kind of abuse was often whispered about, but rarely confronted. When you look back, do you feel like more could have been done by people in power to call out that sort of behavior?
No question. I always heard about it, but I didn't have any victims like you to come up to me and say, "Kevin, this is what happened to me."
Mm-hmm.
And never experienced that. Yeah. But I always heard about it. And I equate that to looking at Elvis Presley or Michael Jackson. People that were close friends of those two guys saw the drugs, the abuse, the stuff that was going on, but they didn't say anything. If you're really Elvis's friend, you just should have been there saying, dude, come on, man, I care about my brother. I don't know if that didn't happen, but certainly you don't hear stories about that happening.
Yeah.
So I think when you get to that kind of level, I think people are afraid to step up and be honest about it all and say, well, you're killing yourself, buddy.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing happened within the world of Hollywood when they, the hashtag Me Too thing. Number one, I think now a lot more women are coming out now because somebody started that ball rolling, which is good. But it's sad that they had to go through that, and it's sad that in Hollywood the casting couch is still alive and well. Trust me. I remember I used to golf with Glenn Fry, rest in peace, for the Eagles, and I asked him about the coming up with titles for songs, and he said, we were at a restaurant one time in Santa Monica or Hollywood. It was Hollywood. And one of the band members looked across and they saw the typical 21-year-old beauty with that 70-year-old producer, whatever.
Did he just point at me and call me a 21-year-old?
Yes,
yeah, I'm
21 beauty. But that stuff goes on all the time.
I know.
One of the band members said, "Look at those lion eyes," and they looked at, "What do you say?" And that's how the song "Lion Eyes," because you listen to the words "lion eyes,"
right? That's
what it is.
Wow.
On first line, city girls find out early how to open door with just a smile.
Based on that experience.
That big hit song came out of that.
That is amazing. Yeah. You've spoken openly about being a victim of cancel culture in Hollywood. And I know that's a word you've used to describe your experience. But I'll be honest, victim is a word, and it's personal to me. It's a word I personally wrestle with and struggle with because I like to sort of shift my mentality and call myself a survivor.
Right.
I don't believe in victimhood mentality. I don't subscribe to it. I'm a survivor. And, I've worked hard to reclaim that narrative and shift from identifying as a victim to standing firmly, in survival and strength. So I'm curious, when you say you've been a victim of cancel culture, what does that mean to you personally? And do you think there's value in redefining that experience in more empowered terms?
Well, if I said victim along with it, I always feel like if I said, I probably have said it without thinking the word victim. I just feel like I was one of the first casualties of the cancel culture.
There you go.
Before it became a term.
Yeah.
So a dozen years ago.
Yep.
Am I angry about it? I wasn't really that angry about it. It was frustrating for me because to me, it's like, guys, this is so stupid. I could care less. I've worked with atheists. I've worked with far less liberals and progressives. I don't care.
Right.
Do you want to have a conversation about it? I'm fine for that. I don't harbor that anger and hatred that you get so much from the left. Is it the extreme on the right too? Sometimes, yeah, but I see more of it probably through the left eyes of people on the left. I've lost friends. I've stayed with friends that are people that way, and we can discuss about it. But just because you yell doesn't make you right. Let's have a civil conversation about it. Yeah. But to me, I'm just going to keep on fighting the good fight and doing what I'm doing. Am I upset that it happened? Yeah, it bugs me to a degree because, I see all these things on Netflix, on Amazon, and all these cable shows and network shows. I'm going, I would have been perfect for that role. At least have a chance to read for it. And for them to take that away just because I'm conservative, to me, it's so immature to me. Yeah. And it sucks in a way because I love working, but I'm lucky to keep on going. Am I making the big money made Hercules and Andromeda? No, but independent movies are lower. But we shoot $2 million, $3 million budgets. That's catering budget in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
It's $3 million movies. So, but I love what I'm doing because I do movies that Hollywood used to do. Yeah. Movies that have love, hope, faith, redemption, laughter. They're not all faith-based. I think every movie's faith-based. If you're an atheist, that's a strong faith.
Yeah.
To believe in absolutely nothing.
Right.
That takes a lot of faith to believe in nothing.
Yeah.
And God bless you, man.
Well said.
To me, it's like, every movie has a message in it. I just want to do movies that Hollywood used to do, and they used to do that way. They used to do movies where, the good guy wins.
After being blacklisted in Hollywood for being an outspoken Christian and conservative, what has that experience taught you about the cost of conviction?
I think there's a cost in everything in life. There's always an opportunity cost, right? I could have gone left instead of right. Maybe had I gone right, maybe something better would happen or something worse would have happened. So to me, it's just...
Or like President Trump said the other day, what if a bomb drops on your head? And remember that quote?
Yeah. Well, I love what he said. He was getting off Air Force One and all the reporters around him. And he looked at this one woman and asked him some question. He goes, but you're in danger of talking to me right now. There could be some wacko up on the roof right now that wants to take me out. You could be a casualty of that.
It's true.
He says, think about that. You're around me. We know of 2 attempts on a life, probably more that we don't know about.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So who knows?
Sure. This is a question I've been longing to ask you as a fellow Christian, Christian woman. It hits me on a deeply personal level, but I am curious, has your faith ever been shaken by how you've been treated, or has it only strengthened through adversity?
I think strengthened through adversity. I didn't blame God.
That. Some people do.
Sure, they do.
Yeah.
Sure, they do. They're so easy to blame God for things don't go right in your life.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, we live in a world right now, certainly through our public education system, which is appalling. I mean, we were number one in the world in the 50s. We're number 40 now in the world. It's pretty pathetic. And, when I was in school, teachers taught what they're being paid to teach. My science teacher was science. My math taught math. They didn't tell me how to vote or not to vote. They didn't tell me what to believe in or not to believe in terms of religion. They taught the subject they were there to speak. So to me, it's, I think, if anything, I've learned a lot from my past in a positive way. I grew up in a very small town in Minnesota. My friends to this day are people I've known since grade school. They're still my best friends.
Yeah.
And the bonds are still there. We still get together every year and we get along just fine. And there's a lot of differing opinions in there, but, we're still friends.
So your faith has strengthened through adversity. I love that. It always it takes me back to the song by the band Casting Crowns, Praise You in the Storm.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard it, but it's important to praise God in the good times. And it's easy to praise him in the good times, but it's also important to praise him during times of adversity.
Yeah.
Right?
And we all have that.
Yeah.
I've got friends that are atheists, and I say, well, there's something called the grateful prayer. And they go, what's that? You sit in your car in traffic. Don't get angry. The traffic is what it is.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, okay, but I'm grateful I got a car. I'm grateful I got a pillow at home. I'm grateful I got running water. We sort of get caught up in the shortness or of our attention spans in life right now. And it's only gotten worse with technology, as you see every single person, including myself, at the airport, they're all on their phones. There's no conversations going on anymore.
None.
So we found a way to increase being busy with business that isn't important, which is too bad.
What would you say to young actors or creatives just starting off in Hollywood who feel they need to hide their values and their faith in order to succeed in entertainment?
Every movie I've been doing the last 6-7 years, and I probably shot 30 movies in the last 6 years, I'll get anywhere from one person during that movie shoot up to 20 that talk to me privately. They take me aside like we're doing a drug deal and go, hey, man, they look around. Thanks for being a voice for us. And I look at them, I go, be a voice for yourself.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll get blacklisted like you. And I said, here I am. I'm doing a movie with you. Am I still black? But maybe I'm blacklisted from Hollywood. But the independent producers and independent production companies out there are a lot, and they're varied. So I stay busy through that way as well. I'm blessed to raise enough money to do one movie a year through my own company, but the other 2 to 3, 4 movies a year are for other independent people that just call me up because they want to work with me.
Yeah.
So I say, don't. You know what? Then. If you want to be quiet about it, then don't get involved in the conversations at all. And I say, I find it sad, but I understand that they feel that way. I understand that they got to go to that because they will get blacklisted. Neil McDonough was one of those guys. I directed a movie called Left Behind, Rise of the Antichrist, based on the
great movie, by the way, one of my favorites.
So I've known Neil forever, and Neil's a great actor. And people, you'll know Neil McDonough if you don't know him right away. The guy's in everything. He's actually in Tulsa King right now.
Great. Another great show. I actually know we had Terrence Winter.
Yeah.
We had him on the podcast, Hollywood screenwriter.
I told him, he said, thanks for being a voice. I said, Neil, you're such a huge actor. Be a voice for yourself. He left his manager, agent. He's got his wife doing everything for him. He says, I've never worked more in my life. He's just not.
And his wife is his manager?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could have the...
Well, he's already a big... So people are calling him all the time. He's doing a lot of work with Angel Studios right now. His latest movie is coming out called The Last Rodeo. Mm-hmm. And I've got a movie with him. I hope that happens soon, another Western. So we'll see what happens.
How do you stay grounded in a business that thrives on ego, image, and approval?
I don't walk around expecting people to know who I am because I know a lot of people don't know who I am.
People know who you are, though.
No, people know. But look, I get stopped through hotel lobbies, airports. It's not Hercules or Andromeda.
Do you get stopped at Publix here in Jupiter, Florida?
Oh, sure. You walk through.
So funny.
And I'm sure there are people who walk by me and hate me. Just because he's one of those guys. They just walk.
Pushing their cart.
I get stopped every day by someplace somewhere. Just saying, I love the movies you're doing. It's all really Soul Surfer, What If, Let There Be Light, all these movies I've done. That's what people stop me for now. I go, this is the road God intended me to be on, to do movies
Absolutely.
with a positive message instead of a negative one.
I guess you could say I'm a bit old-fashioned. I go to church every Sunday, and even if I don't go to church, I'll like watch online.
We do the same thing.
Also, my ideal date night is still dinner and a movie.
Sure.
And I sometimes wonder, though, do people even go to the movies anymore? I feel like going to the theater is the same as writing a letter. And by the way, I still do both. It's like a lost art almost. But with streaming dominating so much of our lives now, what's your take on where we're headed as a society when it comes to entertainment?
I think people still want to go to the theaters because that experience is such a great experience, but it's dying out. It really is. It's not going to go away completely, but I find Hollywood kind of getting boring. They just want to reissue the same thing.
I have noticed the repetition. It's almost like we need more creative ideas. We don't need another Fast and Furious. Like, we're good. Yeah. We're good, right? What are there, 10?
Well, if they're going to make $1 billion or more, they're going to keep making them.
Okay,
fair. But I see the other ones. I see it on the Avenger world and all.
Or like the Little Mermaid.
That's starting to die out a little bit.
Right.
So people are getting tired of that because it's the same thing over and over again. So I fell in love with movies watching old 40s and 50s movies with my mom as a kid. I remember watching
the Hollywood good old days.
The golden age is the reason why they called it that. So because the writers came out. I mean, writing's the toughest.
Roman Holiday, favorite movie.
Yeah, Casablanca. Are you kidding me? I mean, those are just great movies.
I'm an old soul.
Even
though Hercules came out when I was 3 years old, I'm an old soul. I guess so. A friend of mine just yesterday, Kevin, shared devastating news with me that she lost her job. She's a hardworking single mom, love her to death. But you know what? She was miserable in that job. And I kept saying to her, sort of try to pivot your thinking. This is happening for a reason. I'm a firm believer that everything in life does happen for a reason, even the bad things that are hard to stomach. Can you share with me and our viewers and listeners a personal failure that you look back on and, it just sort of reminded you why you're on the path that you're on?
Well, I had a lot of failure just in Hollywood itself. There was failure every single day. There was rejection every single day.
Did you ever just want to give up?
No. Never wanted to give up. And I think that's the trouble in today's world. I think there's such a short attention span out there, and everybody expects to be famous now right away.
Yeah,
they all got their little YouTube.
TikTok.
They all want to be famous right away without actually putting the work into it. And most will not become famous. Just like in Hollywood, it's easy to go out there. But I think of all the actors in my age group back when we were in our 20s pursuing that dream that didn't make it because I don't see them anywhere.
Right.
I don't see them anywhere. So to me, I used to caddy at this private country club when I was in, we didn't have grow up with any money. I'm the fourth of 5 kids on my dad's school teacher salary. But I caddied at this country club. They're all very wealthy men. And I asked every single one of them, whether they're 30 or 80, I said, when I caddied for them, how did you become successful? Every single one said, I failed. And by the way, Kevin, I failed again, and I kept failing. And I failed for many, many years before I was successful. They taught me you learn a lot from failure. You learn a lot from no.
Yeah.
When people say no or reject you, there's always something good about that.
Yeah.
And I use it, that fueled the fire for me.
Yep.
It fueled. People kept saying, well, business, you went to college, you got that to fall back on. Fall back on became kryptonite to me.
Yeah.
Me crazy. I don't want to hear about falling back. I'm not going to fall back anything. I knew since I was 11, I was going to have success as an actor.
Wow.
I was 11 years old. Man.
That is amazing. That's a young age.
Yeah. I started practicing my autograph when I'm back then.
Oh, wow.
So, and I was just like, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. I took the 3 toughest acting coaches during my 6 years before I booked Hercules. Because I would ask actors Roy London's awesome, but he's tough to get into. I go, oh, really? So I had to study under his apprentice, his first teacher below him before she decided you're good enough to go to Roy's class now. So when I got to Roy's class, I'm in that class and there's Brad Pitt in my class.
Oh, wow.
There's Matthew Perry in my class. There's Charlotte Ross in my class.
Just small names.
I know. And I remember.
No big deal.
I remember Brad bringing his audition scene for Thelma and Louise, and he got the role. Well, in Thelma and Louise, he's only in that movie 10 minutes, but people went, who's this guy?
Right.
And then during one of the breaks, it was like a 5-hour class and 1 day a week. And during the break, we're out in the hallway. Brad was a smoker back then. I go, Brad, are you too good looking? Is that what you just smoke as much as possible? Get yourself not as good looking. But I gave him a hard time. He says, yeah, I got to learn how to fly fish now. I'm doing this movie called A River Runs Through It with Robert Redford.
Wow.
Bye, Brad.
I just got chills. That's so cool.
And Matthew Perry, first rest his soul. First time I saw Matthew get on stage, I looked at Brad and said, this dude should be on a sitcom. A year and a half later, he's on Friends.
That's incredible.
You know, so, but you put in the time, you put in the effort, there's always going to be rejection. But use it for, fear is the government's favorite weapon.
Yeah.
And you saw the every level. You saw when COVID came out, the way they just want to control all our lives through fear. And don't let fear rule you.
Fear is a powerful tool.
Yeah. Don't let rejection. Don't let anyone set your limitations, especially yourself.
I love that.
Do that.
I have to ask you about Brad Pitt. Sure. You mentioned it. I'm going to go there. So what, you are the kind of actor that kind of what you see on camera is what you get off screen. You're that kind of guy. Yeah. And I mean that as a compliment. You're so personable.
I think every actor brings a piece of themselves to the role.
Yeah. What is Brad Pitt like off screen, off camera, for those of us who have not had the luxury of being around Brad Pitt?
I thought just kind of a cool guy, just very casual guy. I remember Hercules is now a big hits, 1996. I'm back home. I'm at the Academy Awards. I'm at the after party with my entertainment lord, Dave. And number one, I look across, I see Tom Hanks. And I said, Dave, do you know Tom? I've never met Tom. He goes, yeah, I'll introduce you. Boom, 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 tap my shoulder, turn around, it's Tom Hanks.
Wow.
He shakes my hand. He says, Kevin, pleasure to meet. We love watching Hercules as a family. Why? You don't know who's watching your show.
Yeah.
I was like blown away. Here he is off 2 Academy Awards back to back.
Yep.
For Forrest Gump and the Philadelphia story.
Complimenting you.
Oh, this is so bizarre. And every time I bumped into him, he's been nothing but just a gentleman to me. And then by looking,
maybe he had your Hercules poster on his wall.
I doubt it. But anyway, then I look across. I saw Tom Cruise over there with Brad Pitt because they had just done Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah.
And he sees me. I see him. We wave. I go over there and he introduces me to Tom Cruise. And we talked a little while. And we talked about Roy London, who had passed away a couple of years earlier from AIDS. And I remember when I left Roy's class, I said, Roy, I'm going to move on to try a different coach now. I've been there 2 years in a class. He goes, Kevin, we're making such great groundwork with you here. I don't want you to leave. And I said, I want to work more. The other class says I'm going to work every week. Because in Roy's class, there was only a handful of actors every month got to go up, which was frustrating for me. Mm-hmm. He goes, you learn a lot by watching, Kevin. I said, I do learn a lot by watching. I watch a lot of basketball. I'm not in the NBA. So you learn more by doing as well. You do learn by watching. There's no question. But I wanted to watch and work at the same time.
And you want to act, produce, right, and direct. I get it. You're a jack of all trades. I've heard you say in an interview before that in Hollywood, it is more acceptable to be a Scientologist than a Christian, referencing somebody like Tom Cruise as an example. I found that statement really intriguing. Can you help me understand what you meant by that and what personal experiences led you to feel that way?
Well, if I said more acceptable, I don't remember that, to be honest. I know he talked about Scientology and other.
It's a direct quote.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
But that's okay.
What? No. You know what? That is true. Maybe I was comparing it to being a Christian in Hollywood.
Yes.
I think being a Christian in Hollywood
is that what you meant?
Is like kryptonite to them as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would make sense to me if that's a direct quote, and that's fine. But if it's on the internet, it's not always a direct quote.
Everything on the internet's true.
I see my Wikipedia page. I'm going, who wrote this? There's like 25% of it that I've never done or been part of, whether it was a compliment or a negative thing on Wikipedia. I'm like going, who's writing these things? I remember,
dwarfs in caves.
I remember I tried to change something one time out there and they wouldn't let me change. I'm going, I can't change my Wikipedia page.
No,
but saying Joe Schmo who doesn't know me.
This is not a free society. It's funny. I actually don't have a Wikipedia page and I'm shocked. Of course, now that I've put that out there, I'm sure now I will have a Wikipedia page. Yeah. But my friend, I was like, hey, don't I need a page? He was like, just embrace it, Jen. Just ride the ride.
No, because it's run by people that if they like you, they'll make you look great. If they don't like you, they'll make you look bad.
But we were just talking about Scientology in Hollywood versus Christianity. Yeah. Do you think that some belief systems in Hollywood get a free pass while others get policed?
Sure. I mean, I've not heard anything about the Scientology and people being attacked for being, what's her name left from King or Queens, right? And they went after her.
Yep.
Shoot, I remember.
I know. Now we're blanking on. We're dropping so many actors' names left and right. We need like a dictionary next time.
She dropped out of that world, and
Leah Remini.
Yeah.
Leah Remini.
Remini. Yeah, and they just went after her.
I love her.
Why are they attacking her? Yeah, I'm a big fan. I like the show. The show made me laugh.
Yeah,
I mean, I know.
I have a lot.
Kevin James very well, great guy. But yeah, I mean, I have heard more Christians say they get attacked for being Christians in Hollywood then I'm never a Scientology person getting attacked.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I said we don't get political on the show. I'm going to bend my rules just a smidge for you because it's you. But I am actually curious to get your take on this. You know, recently we saw a very public back and forth between President Trump and Elon Musk, two men with massive platforms, massive egos, and two wildly different approaches to leadership, media, and influence. As someone who has spoken openly about your own convictions and faced pushback for them, I'm curious, what does Kevin Sorbo think? What do you make of this kind of power struggle playing out on the world stage?
Well, they got the power to do it. I mean, I think that makes the biggest difference. I've known the president for 20 years. We're not best buddies, but we've golfed together. I remember back in 2005, we golfed together for 3 days. And I remember telling him...
who got the better score?
You know, we're both pretty good. We're both like 5.
He won't answer. That's a non-answer.
We're both... No, I'll tell you what, for a guy 78 years old, he's got a darn good game. So when I met him, it was 20 years ago, so he was in his late 50s. But I've golfed with him here at Trump International. I go to Mar-a-Lago. I've spoken there many times. They've had me MC a couple of Lincoln Day dinners there, which is a blast. We're not buddies, but he knows of me. But I met Musk very quickly just one time. They got huge egos, and rightfully so. I think they should have huge egos. Look what Musk has done. I mean, the attacks on him, it just kind of cracks me up. I go, this guy's like one of the smartest brains the world has ever had.
Yeah.
And people call him a moron. I'm going, who are you? What kind of job, what kind of title do you own in this world? But it's just so funny. I mean, the haters are going to be haters. I get people that attack me every day on the internet. And I look at this guy's going, every morning you wake up angry. What a horrible way to go through life. Think about that. Every day they're just mad. Now I'm going, they have no joy in their life whatsoever. No joy. Do they even have jobs? I mean, I think a documentary, I think that every one of these people, I think there's a common denominator. I think they come from really screwed up families. They're probably on George Soros's payroll. I mean, who knows? But I mean, I look at this stuff going, why every day be angry? What a lousy way to live your life.
But two of those powerful men in power taking to Twitter, or I guess I should say X, it's called X now, to sort of go at each other in a mudslinging contest. It's so fun.
But hasn't that changed a little bit now? Aren't they coming back?
Has it, Kevin? I'm asking you. You're the guy who golfs with the president.
No, as far as I know, there's been sort of Elon Musk.
A ceasefire.
There's been a ceasefire. Elon Musk is just saying, look, I said what I said, and I didn't mean that way or this way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And they say women are too emotional to be in politics. Oh, sorry, I had to take that a little there. But, President Trump recently named Sylvester Stallone, Jon Voight, and Mel Gibson as special ambassadors to what he described as a troubled Hollywood. More and more stars, including yourself, are, it seems, moving away from the traditional studio system and advocating for a revitalized film production here in the U.S. You are at the forefront of that, Kevin, especially with an emphasis on independent projects and tax incentives. Do you think we're witnessing the beginning of a true, parallel industry, sort of kind of a new Hollywood?
Well, obviously, Netflix and Amazon changed the game quite drastically. So Hollywood is trying to play catch up now because, they're keeping shows on the air now that with the ratings would never normally have been on the air, but there's so much competition out there that if you have a one share, they're going to, on cable, they'll probably keep you going for a while. That's like 1 million homes. So it's changed. I know Mel Gibson and Elon Musk and Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg, I've known Mark a long time. I just did a Tunnel for Towers golf event with him up in Detroit. And he's in Vegas now. He's moved. They're talking about doing studios. Musk is, I've heard, $60 billion ready to throw in to build studios in Las Vegas. They've been talking about that for decades,
right? And
doing something out there. But yeah, there's an alternate form that people want to do, the independents, and make movies that, like I said, the Hollywood used to make. They sort of fight back. I think it was who said Hollywood? I mean, the culture runs downstream from. Politics comes downstream from culture. Who runs the culture? Hollywood does. The mainstream media does. And the movies that they do have a huge effect on people. Walt Disney said back in the 1950s, movies and television will influence our youth. I think he meant that for positive and for negative.
Yeah.
Because there's some positive things that can come out of it. There's a lot of negative stuff as well. So we'll see what happens. I hope it does happen. I think it's time that the world is changing in terms of media. Like you mentioned earlier about going to movies. A lot of people, and COVID really did a lot of that as well. People said, I'm going to build my own theater, my own man cave. We're going to watch movies at home. So I think there's going to be a big bite out of Hollywood came because of COVID as well.
We live in a time where cancel culture can end careers overnight.
Sure.
Do you think we're reaching a tipping point, or will it get worse before it gets better?
I think we reached a tipping point. I think people are getting sick of it. I think the woke thing is enough of it already. And it's just the racism thing, enough of it already. I didn't even think about racism until Obama became president. I mean, I look at this stuff, I go, what is going on? You know, I've got black friends. I've got friends that, it's interesting to me that it lasts as long as it did. But the anger's still there. You still see it going on. But I think it's starting to dissipate. I think the tipping point is now the pendulums are going to swing back the other way.
Now, that being said, I think that there is, and I was just talking about this with a friend before recording this episode, there are people out there, obviously, who deserve to be canceled. You know, you got those miscreants of society, like you put the rapists, the murderers, the child abusers in one category. And then there's people like you who are free thinkers, who share your, beliefs and sort of get canceled, quote unquote, I guess you could. So there is a difference, right? In cancel culture. If you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about the entertainment industry, what would it be? I love this question, by the way.
That's a good question, because there might be a lot of things you might want to wave a wand at.
Just pick one.
I think if there's a way just to get rid of the anger within the industry, just get rid of the anger, and
give everyone Prozac.
I'm a live and let. Yeah, maybe I'm a live. I think they're already on Prozac. I think I'm a live and let live kind of guy. It shouldn't be. I don't care if you believe that way and don't believe the same way I do. I'm fine with that. I don't get upset about that. If you're right for the job, see, I don't want to hire. I don't believe in the diversity thing. To me, it's like, if I have a business, no matter what, if it's I don't care if you're making, bed sheets or if you're in Hollywood making movies, I want to hire the best person, period.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
I don't care what they look like, what they stand for.
It's a sign of intelligence, by the way.
Just hire the best person for the job.
Yeah.
This forcing that you got to hire this type of people for that job, to me, it's like, it's just weird to me.
You have starred in some pretty notable films like God's Not Dead, Left Behind, Let There Be Light, and my personal favorite, I'm sorry if this sounds cliche, but Soul Surfer, where you played surfer Bethany Hamilton's supportive father. That film was a major commercial success, I think, earning roughly $47 million worldwide on an $18 million budget.
$85 million in theaters alone.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah.
But the budget was significantly smaller than what the film ended up.
That God's Not Dead was a $2 million budget, made $140 million.
See, that's incredible.
So What If, which is my first really, we call it faith-based movie I did, same writers that did God's Not Dead came out 2 years earlier. And my book, What If, is a far better movie. So I recommend What If for people all the time. It's directed by Dallas Jenkins, who's doing this little thing called The Chosen right now. And Dallas Jenkins is the son of Jerry Jenkins, who wrote the Left Behind books.
Wow.
So that's a little full circle thing for me. But What If is coming back in theaters. 15 years ago it came out. It's coming out in theaters this August.
Wow.
So see What If. Much better movie than Gosh Not Dead.
Did you audition for The Chosen? I have to know.
Dallas, I bugged Dallas that I'm not in there. And he said to me, he goes, I can't put you in The Chosen. You're too recognizable. And it made me laugh. Because I said, yeah, Dallas, just the other day I was watching this movie, and until the credits roll at the end, that was Tom Cruise. I had no idea that was Tom Cruise in that. He goes, no, you don't, but you don't look like you're Jewish. And I said, I could be a Roman guard. I lived in Milan, Italy for 8 months.
Yeah,
there were a lot of lighter colored hair, blue-eyed people in Italy. So
yeah, they're there.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
He's got blue-eyed.
You're 6'3". He's gonna be a Hercules. You can be.
Yeah, so I gave him a hard time. Yeah, a hard time. But I would have loved to have been in The Chosen. Sure, I've gotten to know Jonathan Rami, who plays Jesus recently, and very nice guy.
Sorry if that was a sore subject. I had to ask.
Not sore. I
had to ask.
I laugh when somebody says too recognizable. And I go, then why does Tom Cruise keep making billion-dollar movies? He's too recognizable.
But going back to Soul Surfer, though, as somebody who, and I'm talking about myself, who loves surfing and has always been deeply inspired by Bethany's story of resilience after losing her arm in a shark attack, I have to ask, did you have the chance to interact with Bethany and her father?
I'm the one who saves her in the water. That's a true story. I'm the one when
I remember that scene.
I'm the one who saves her life in the water, but I met the real father. And the story she told me was amazing. What
kind of impact did that have on the way you approached the role? Well,
obviously, it's when you're doing something that's a true story, you want to meet the people behind it if they're still around.
Yeah.
And so we shot a couple months in the North Shore of Oahu. I mean, then with Dennis Quaid's in there, Ellen Hunt's in the movie. They're the ones who played the parents to Bethany's character. Bethany was on set every day. And I remember hearing her story. I think she was being interviewed by Matt Lauer back in the day when she was 14 years old. And she's there with her arm gone.
Yeah.
And Matt started talking about it. And here's this little 14-year-old girl saying, she goes, I think God wanted me to lose my arm so I could spread the word about his love for the world.
I just got chills.
It was amazing.
She's an incredible.
She was on set every single day, every day. I just talked to her recently because she and I both do books with Brave Books on with Kirk Cameron, which are, the books that have, moral values and they're for kids. She said, one of my books, Test the Lionhood, she says, that's my son's favorite book. I read it to him every day. I thought that was kind of cool. But when she and I went to the Cannes Film Festival to do promotion for the movie, Dennis couldn't do it, so they invited me to go in place. And she said, I'm not taking any questions about the attack. I've talked about enough. Have Kevin go to a separate room, and I'll go to this room and all the interviews. Kevin will tell the story about the attack because he knows the
She doesn't like talking about it.
Well, she talked about it so many times.
Right.
She said,
so it's enough. Yeah.
She wants to talk about.
And it's traumatic having to relive over and over and over again.
Yeah, so it was intense meeting the gentleman that I actually played.
Yeah.
And that he said that, and the only thing different in the movie is he sent both kids of his kids in the shore. In the movie, I keep the daughter out with me.
Okay.
He thought there was going to be a feeding frenzy.
Oh.
He said, get in the shore, call 911 right now. And he paddled over to her, realizing he was probably going to die in the feeding frenzy.
Wow.
But he's going to leave a 13-year-old girl out there by herself.
Yeah.
And he grabbed onto his shorts, with the arm she held left. He's paddling like crazy. Thank God there was a high tide. If there wasn't a high tide, she would have died because they would have had to gone around this reef. He gets to the reef. There's like a foot of water on there. He rips off his rash guard, ties her arm off, grabs his sword. He ran across this reef. His feet got ripped. He had so many, because there's poison, there's toxics in the coral reef.
Yeah.
But, the adrenaline's flowing.
Right.
But he had 6 months of just nightmares. Said he couldn't sleep for 6 months, just reliving that over and over again.
Did you ever get to do any surfing, at least when you were in Hawaii?
They brought me out a couple weeks early to work with a pro surfer. Okay. And he said, it's silly they think that you can learn this in 2 weeks. He said, you grew up in Minnesota, right? And I said, yeah, I was a basketball player, but my buddies were hockey players. They were on skates by the time they were 2 years old.
Right.
And he said, but they got to a point where I could actually stand on the board and I could last for maybe 2 seconds.
There you go.
Well, that's all they needed to
win.
And then cut to the body. Yep. But I tell you, if I lived in that condition, I grew up, skiing, water skiing, which is the completely opposite of surfing.
Oh, polar opposite.
And surfing is much harder.
Much harder.
Because the waves are moving like crazy.
Yep.
When you got a boat,
you have to have good balance too.
It helps a lot.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, these guys are amazing.
Yep.
But it was fun. The sensation of it, especially when I didn't get on, if I missed it when I was paddling out there doing the duck dives and stuff, and when I just laid on the board and go 100 yards on the water, it was so cool.
Yeah, it's a cool feeling.
It was like the ultimate body surfing.
Yep. Soul Surfer is ultimately a story about overcoming fear, trusting in something bigger, and choosing
tragedy,
and choosing faith over fear.
Yeah.
Even in the face of trauma. As someone who has faced your own battles, did this story resonate with you on a sort of deeper level than most?
Oh, no question. No question. Because I already had gone through the years of having the strokes, having to fight through it. My book was already out and everything like that. We all have roadblocks in life. God never promised us an easy life. That's not what he's here for. That's a power of free will, good or bad.
Yeah.
And we all have roadblocks. How do you rack that roadblock? You want to blame God? You want to blame a God you don't believe in? You want to blame the world, your family, and stuff like that? I always say, cue up Michael Jackson's song, Man in the Mirror. Look in the mirror because that's where it starts.
Looking at the man. Can we get that queued up, Gus? No. All right. Well, the ocean can be both brutal and beautiful, kind of like life, right? You know, when life knocks you down, when you fall off your board, you got to keep going. You know, you've starred in and have produced many faith-based and independent films. I am curious, what motivates you, Kevin, to keep creating even when the mainstream media doesn't always embrace your voice?
I love the industry. I've loved it my whole life. I mean, when I told you I was going to be an actor, at 11 years old, my parents, they said, "That's nice, dear." I got my mom patting the thigh, you know.
You want to be challenged.
I love being on the set. I love being on the set. I love the interaction with the other actors, the crew. When I film, I try to follow, not shooting these 16-hour days that everybody wants to do all the time, which Clint Eastwood shoots 8-hour days and makes Oscar-winning movies. There's so much wasted time on the set. I don't allow that. I keep a happy set, but I want an AD that's going to keep up, cracking the whip and keep it going. I shoot maybe 10, 11-hour days. And there's no reason to shoot 16 hours. People just got to that point, they want to be like James Cameron and shoot half a page a day. I don't want to do that. And I don't want to do 7,000, CGI shots. I want to do movies that draw people in. I love the movies Clint Eastwood does. I'm a big fan of his movies.
Get off my lawn.
That's right. Great.
Those types of movies.
That's right.
I already know the answer to this because I already said at the start of this interview, you are the busiest man in Hollywood. I'm convinced, or out of Hollywood, I guess I should say. I don't really know. I don't know. But do you have any exciting projects coming up? And if so, give my viewers and listeners a tease of what's to come.
I do. I got 4 movies coming out this year, and I've got 3 documentaries coming out. And like I said, I've already shot 2 other ones that won't be able to next year.
I'm like sweating.
I've got I got one called Another Life. I love true stories. This Another Life is about a gentleman that was born deaf, and he's from Greensboro, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And we shot in that area. I got to meet the actual man, and it's just a wonderful story about another life. It is about finding that road to redemption.
I love that.
And having hope and love in your life. So, great story. Another one I did 2 secular movies, but both comedies. One I play a 700-year-old vampire. It's called A Vampire Story.
Oh, that's my cup of tea.
And it's a comedy. It's not.
That's again my cup of tea.
It's not a gory thing, but it's very, very funny. We shot it in Mississippi, and I'm hoping that comes out soon as well. And another one, I played a sheriff in a small town that the zombie apocalypse has taken over the world, but it's zombies versus aliens.
Okay.
It's called Les Apocalypse. Like Cuisine de Apocalypse.
Okay, a little bit of a French flair.
Yeah, it's very French flair. And I've got a wonderful documentary coming out, 3 of them coming out, with John Lennox. John Lennox is an apologist. He's debated the great atheists of the world, like Singer and Dawkins and Hitchens. And we spent 3 weeks in Oxford, England, where he's a retired math professor there, 2 weeks in Israel. He's an apologist. He's an amazing guy. It's called Against the World. So we shot 3 weeks in Oxford, 2 weeks in Israel. And I call it Apologetics for Dummies Like Me. So,
I love it.
Yeah, so it's pretty
very interesting. Okay.
Staying busy.
Okay, staying busy. Do me a favor. Can you read what this trophy here says loud and clear for our viewers and our listeners, Kevin Sorbo?
Well, it's got your name on there, Jennifer.
That's my name. Yes.
Best Actress, 1-act play.
Okay. But what was that? Best Actress? Best Actress.
1-act play. Westminster Christian and School.
We don't need those details. We're good. We're good. For all they know, it's a movie. Right. But if you ever do need an extra or perhaps a lead, or if you want to make a documentary called Reinvented, shameless plug, I was Best Actress. 2007 to the whole year I was Best Actress.
The entire year.
For the entire year. Do you hear that, Academy? There you go.
I love that.
So anyway, and we have an Oscar here. I'm kidding. This is a fake Oscar. Have you ever wanted to win one of these?
Certainly. When I was younger, I told myself I'm going to.
You can have this one.
Once I got booted, I know Hollywood's never going to give me. There are some roles I think I should have been nominated for. And I think I did a damn good job in them, but I think it was more because of the way it was shot, the way it was directed, and the way the script was written. Okay. It was really good.
Fair.
There's a lot of politics in Hollywood as well. So there's that, there was, I thought that Clint Eastwood easily should have won. The American Sniper movie was an amazing movie. He was nominated.
I interviewed Taya Kyle, the widow from American Sniper.
That's amazing.
She's been on this podcast show.
You should have won, but that was a political thing that they didn't allow Clint to win it because he's very outspoken.
Okay, we're doing a hard left again. Okay. What's your golf handicap? And do you actually tell the truth when people ask, or do you give the Hollywood version?
6.7 index is what I am. Some of these, I was a 2 in high school, but when I was in high school, during those summers in Minnesota, I would be on the golf course all day long.
Wow.
I would practice putt. I would be out there 6-7 hours a day putting practice, and I got down to 2. I mean, it's tough to get down to a pro level, and I wasn't even close to it. So
I told Kevin that my short game's good. It's my long game that needs a little tweak.
But I told you, I played with everybody from Tiger Woods. I used to be very good friends with Arnie Palmer. May he rest in peace as well, which he is. And I know Jack Nicklaus. I've golfed with them all. I got a PGA event coming up in Minnesota that I'm playing in 2 days in the pro and with the pros.
Is there still snow on the ground in Minnesota? No.
100 degrees.
What month are we in? No, it's hot there. I've lost track of all time. By the way, this show's been on a 6-month hiatus, right. Kevin. There's been a lot going on.
I don't miss the colds in Minnesota, but summers are great.
So if you could tee it up with anyone, living or dead, I don't know if you've been asked this before, but if
would it be a foursome or just one person?
We can go with.
I'm just curious.
We can go with foursome, but I'm curious, who would be your dream golf partner for the day?
See, it's unfair because I want to make it a foursome because then
make it a foursome.
All right,
let's go for it.
Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, okay.
Abraham Lincoln.
All right.
And
got to remove the hat for
Genghis
that.
Khan. I think that'd be interesting.
That is quite the trifecta.
As long as he doesn't kill us.
And Kevin Sorbo.
Very interesting. I think it'd be very. I could add to that list.
Yeah.
I'd like to meet George Washington, Thomas. I'd like to meet our founding fathers. I think it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I would add Audrey Hepburn to that list. I'm a big Hepburn fan.
Well, then I would throw in Paul Newman as well because that's the reason I wanted to be an actor. Paul Newman. Okay. I got a wonderful letter from him. It's in my office.
That's very neat. Yeah. So, all right, be honest. Would you let them win, or are you the kind of guy who brings the heat, even if it's Abraham Lincoln?
I always want to win. Golfers are selfish.
You would you would beat Abraham Lincoln.
Of course I would. If he wasn't better than me.
That's savage. That is savage. All right. Okay. Well, if it's Hercules, I'm assuming he would just throw the ball and just call it a hole-in-one.
You know, every episode I directed, I would put in a sports thing that Hercules in there.
You have to.
I put in golf in a scene.
Of course. You have to. Both are your thing. That's your shtick. So, you've worn many hats: actor, director, producer, author, father, husband. I don't have any hands left. I've listed everything, but I'm curious, which role has taught you the most about yourself?
Father. Being a father.
Why is that?
You learn a lot from your kids. When you hope you pass on good values to them, good moral values, you pass on them strength. My father was my best man at my wedding. I miss him every day. He passed 12 years ago. He was my golf buddy.
My father's father was his best man at his wedding.
He taught us, all 5 of his kids, that you work hard. You don't expect handouts. They grew up during the Depression. They grew up working on farms in Iowa. And, he couldn't play sports because they couldn't have any more kids. He was the only child. So he'd get up in the morning, do all the chores, go to school, come right back until sunset and do all the chores with his dad. So he had 4 boys. So he lived vicariously. All 4 of his boys were very athletic. So he was very, very supportive of us in sports. But he taught us all hard work, period.
I love that. Yeah. Important lesson. What is something about you that people don't know that might surprise even your most loyal fan base?
I play the guitar and I got a pretty good voice. So there you go.
Hey, are you able to give us a little sample?
I just do it for me.
No wonder, Will.
I got a Martin and a Gibson guitar at home, and I do my dog.
You're an Eagles fan.
I'm a big Eagles fan. Dan Fogelberg, James Taylor. I'm a child of the 70s. I'm a mellow soul. I like Led Zeppelin too. Oh. I mean, it depends on my mood, but I'm a big probably soft rock 70s or Fleetwood Mac, guys like Journeys.
Yep.
Guys, Roof.
I am a child, as you know, of the 90s, but I subscribe to that, grunge alternative rock era. We've had Billy Corgan, who is a dear friend, rock star of the Smashing Pumpkins, on this show. So I love Pearl Jam, Nirvana. That's, those are Chris Cornell. Those are my guys.
Those aren't like big groups for me. I like the
different generation.
In the late 70s, but I was a big fan of the Cars too.
Okay. I just have 2 more questions.
Okay.
All right. If the Kevin Sorbo of today could give one piece of advice to the Kevin just starting off in Hollywood, fresh out the gate, what would it be?
Well, I got to borrow what I said earlier.
Don't be a conservative. I'm kidding.
It's don't let anyone set your limitations. Like I said earlier.
Great advice.
I think there was a while there that I might have started holding back, and I said, screw it. I'm just going to be me.
The sky is the limit.
Yeah.
Last question. How would you, Kevin Sorbo, define the word reinvention in one sentence?
Reinvention in one
sentence. The name of the show, Reinvented.
Right.
How would you define it in one sentence?
Don't let fear hold you back.
I love that. Can we have like a mic drop? There's no mic to drop. I'll drop this, but thank you. That was awesome. There you have it, folks. From Hercules to Hollywood and everything in between. Kevin, your journey proves that reinvention isn't just possible, it is powerful. Thank you for being here and for reminding us to stand strong in who we are, both on and off the screen.
I appreciate it. Go to sorbostudios.com.
There you go, shameless plug. To all my viewers and listeners, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to Reinvented with Jen Eckhart. That's wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, you name it, it's there. Go ahead, go subscribe, give it 5 stars, or else my guy Hercules here, he will show up to your door with a sword and a protein shake. And what did we say earlier? You will bench press your excuses and toss them into the sun.
That's right.
Did I get that right?
I could toss them up to Olympia, too.
There you go. Your Mount Olympia. Anyway, I'm Jen Eckhart. That was Kevin Sorbo. Thank you for listening.